just a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. So, we're going to talk about a word that God gave me right before 2020. This word, it's an actual word, obviously, but the word he gave me was one that was I had to really research and really do my thought process about. And the word is intentionality. And I've heard it everywhere this year. Intentionality. It's like, man, I'm like, why intentionality, God? It's like, I thought I'd been intentional in everything I've been doing and everything else, but he had me dive in deeper with the word intentional and intentionality. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? He had me look at every aspect of my life, y'all. Every aspect of my life. And be intentional about every walk I had, whether it was with him, whether it was with the people I encountered, whether it was working out. And as you know, if you are new to my radio show, we focus on the mind, body, and spirit of a woman as it pertains to your purpose. So I thought I was being extremely intentional about all of that. But boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I wrong. God showed me some places in my life where I was not being intentional about where to go and how to do it. And I definitely wasn't being intentional about him. And I want to share all of that with y'all because I truly believe that what he showed me can help move other women and other people that are listening on this show into their God-given purpose. It's a word that I encourage you to focus on, you to develop in. Just keep walking in what he's called you to do because at the end of the day, it's not about us. It isn't. And being intentional about what he's told us, what he's asked of us is true. It's hard, but it's true. But make sure that you are truly walking in who he's called you to be. And we are back. You are on Fishbowl Radio Network. That's fbrn.us. And you are listening to Coffee Talk with Carrie. And I am your host, Carrie Harris. I'm so excited to be back. And we are going to be talking about intentionality. If you heard me earlier, I said that God gave me that word in the end of 2019. He told me that was my word for this year. And it's only been about a month and a half, y'all, and he's already showing me things that are ridiculous. So I wanted to share it with y'all. If you are not new to this show, you already know I am one of the first people to tell you a definition. I research. Some of my great friends have taught me that research helps you to be truly enlightened in what God has shown you. So if he gives you a word, if he gives you a vision, research it. It'll help you get to the next level. So, of course, the English major in me researched the word intention. And the Oxford Dictionary definition of that is to be done on purpose or deliberate. So, if you're doing something on purpose, it should be leading to something at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, purpose leads to destiny. So you have to be intentional about everything you do. And that's something that God has shown me. But we don't think about intentionality all the time. We don't. There's things that we do throughout the day that we don't even think about. Like we get up in the morning. Yes, it's intentional. God gave us the intention to wake up that morning, and we thank God for that. But there's other intentions that God has for us. And we have to understand that everything we do leads to that purpose. So one of the big things for me when it comes to intentionality is even just in my daily routines, I have to make sure that I'm being intentional about where I'm going next, what I'm doing next, how I'm going to do it. Because at the end of the day, if I don't, I'm just going to be running and running and running and running. Let me tell y'all, I am the queen of just running. I do a lot of things all the time, and I just keep running, and that running is not helping me. It is not helping me move to where God needs me to be. In a couple of past shows, I talked about the fact that I was more of Martha then a Mary. Martha, if you are educated on the Bible, you will know that the story of Mary and Martha. Martha was a woman who was very adamant on being someone who was making sure things were done and how they were done and everything in between. But Mary sat at Jesus' feet. And sometimes God will have us doing stuff intentionally. Yes, we need to do things intentionally. But sometimes he just wants us to sit. And we have to be able to do that. There's intention in sitting sometimes. There's intentions in moving. There's intentions in everything in between. So we have to be intentional about what's going to be next in our lives and what we need to do, and even just our daily routines. I've added some things to my own daily routines that have helped me move to my purpose and move to where I need to be and how I need to be. But it takes time. It takes patience. It takes motivation. So I will be talking continuously about the different things that will help you with that throughout this. Another thing is we're going to talk about too what actually intentionality does with your to your purpose, because being intentional not only brings your purpose, but it grows you in your purpose. Growing and developing isn't easy. It is never easy, never has been, never will be easy. But when you allow yourself to be intentional about routines and processes and everything in between, because God does everything in decency and in order. When you are intentional about these things, that's when purpose develops and it elevates. If you look at some of these A-list celebrities like Oprah or who else? Even Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, they were intentional at every way, shape, and form in their lives. They were intentional about what they were doing, how they were doing it, and everything in between. And that's what we need to do. And that's what led them to their purpose. Not only led them to their purpose, but it elevated them into their purpose. So we have to understand making sure that we are intentional in our purpose will elevate us there. So we will be discussing a lot of that today as well, and just what things we need to be intentional about, the people, the places, the things. We're going to go dive in deep with this stuff, y'all. This is all stuff that God has taught me. So I hope that while you are pushing through this, that you listen and you start to listen about how to be boldly intentional about where God is taking you in your life. Because at the end of the day, God's got it. He's got it, but we just have to be intentional about getting there. So you are listening to Fishbowl Radio Network. That's fbrn.us. And this is Coffee Talk with Carrie, and I will be back right after this song. And we are back. It is Coffee Talk with Carrie, and I am your host, Carrie Harris, and you are on Fishbowl Radio Network. That is fbrn.us, y'all. Okay, we've been talking about intentionality. What does it do? What does it do? What's the purpose of intentionality? So I want to dive in deep before I even get into it. A quote that I actually read in a book. And it's been hitting home with me when it comes to intentionality. Distractions are death of your dreams happening in slow motion. So when we are intentional, we are eliminating our distractions, the distractions that the enemy may be trying to give to us. Quick little story about me and distractions. I have been distracted for the past 2 years. Transparency moment. 2 years I have been distracted. For 2 years I was working in a position where I was so focused on doing the vision of it that I allowed it to become a distraction. Was the job a bad job? No. But it was the fact that I allowed it to be a distraction in the purpose that God had called me to be. God did not call me to that job for it to be my purpose. My purpose was greater than that. But I used that job as a crutch, as a distraction, and it almost killed not only my dreams, but it almost killed me. And we have to allow ourselves to intentionally say, what do I need to do to ensure that I am doing what God has given me to do? Because sometimes we think that we are doing what God has given us to do, but at the end of the day, that's not always true. It's not always true. Just because you're in a position, the position you're in right now, does not mean that's where you're supposed to stay. So having the intentionality to free yourself of distractions releases a freedom about you where you just get so bold in what God has called you to do that you become focused, and that's your tunnel vision. You get a tunnel vision that's where you need to go, and that's how you need to go next. So it will completely and utterly eliminate your distractions. So I encourage you to continuously pray and ask God, what do you want me to do? What is your intent for me in this position right now? Because he might tell you, you might need to up and quit. You might need to move. You might need to do this. It's scary, y'all. I'll tell you that. It's real, real scary. God has told me some things lately, and I'm just like, wait a second. Wait a second. Hold up, God. What are you talking about? Because I'm not ready for that. But we've got to remind ourselves that our lives aren't our own. So he's intentionally putting you in a position to do certain things, but don't allow it to be the distraction to call you out of your purpose. Because at the end of the day, we will be in these positions and we will be in these placements, and we'll have these relationships and these friendships, because sometimes friendships and sometimes relationships are there to teach us something. He intended us to meet this person, or he intended us to be good friends with this person for a season. But we can get distracted by those, and it will throw us off course. And then we'll be like, what is going on with me? Because that's what happened to me. I was saying to myself, what is going on with me? It's like my days turned into long days that I didn't even know could possibly happen. I didn't know what day of the week it was when I woke up in the morning. It's like I couldn't sleep some nights. There was just an unbalance in me because I allowed what God intended for a season to become a distraction, and I tried to keep holding on to it. So we have to be able to release it too. So being intentional keeps you focused on your purpose, and it eliminates the distractions. But you know what else it does as well? It keeps you faithful in the future that God has for you. Because at the end of the day, when God is telling you to release something, or he has an intention behind that, you're going to be like, okay, God, I trust you because I don't know why you have me release this friend. I don't know why you have me release my boyfriend. I don't know why you have me walking away from this position. I don't know why you have me doing this, that, and whatnot. So as we intentionally build our relationship with God, because you have to intentionally build a relationship with God. Because at the end of the day, remember, He is intentionally put us on this earth with an intention of a God-given purpose for our lives. So if he's intentional with us, we need to be intentional with him. So being intentionally building that relationship, you're exercising your faith in what he wants, and he will show you what's next. Or he'll just give it to you sometimes, y'all. You'll be like, have you ever released something that God has intended for you to release? And then literally the next day or even the next hour, your blessing comes. God works like that, but you have to be intentional in that relationship so you can keep that faith. Be like, okay, God, I trust you. I'll let go. And the human side of us doesn't want to let that go because we get scared. We get nervous. We get anxiety ridden because we're too busy listening to what the world has told us to do. And at the end of the day, the world did not create us. Guess who created us? God created us. And he has always created us to be the beings that we need to so we can continue to elevate people into their purpose, because our purpose isn't for us, but it's for others. It is truly, truly for others as well. There are people that are tied to your purpose at the end of the day, and we need to understand that. We do. We have to understand that. It's a funny story because the other day I actually was in a cycling class with my cycling instructor. If y'all remember, a while back I did a interview with him, Antoine Howard, and he said something that blew my mind, y'all. You may have heard it before, but it blew my mind because of where me and God were talking, what me and God were talking about. And he goes, the first thing that came out of his mouth, my cycle bar preacher, the first thing that came out of his mouth was, who were you before what the world told you to be? When he said that, who were you before what the world told you to be? I was like, bruh. Because all I could think back to was the things that I released because God intended for more for me. And that's what he intends for you. He intends so much more for you at the end of the day. And the only way he can get to it, he can pull you through it, he can push you through it, is if you choose. You have to choose. And I repeat, you have to choose to be intentional about your relationship with him, because his intentionality will bring you to your purpose. Because at the end of the day, that's who God is, and that's who he'll always be. You just have to believe in him. You are tuned in to Fishbowl Radio Network. This is FBRN.US. And we are back. It is Fishbowl Radio Network, and you are tuned in to Coffee Talk with Carrie. That is FBRN.US. And we have been talking intentionality. And I have started out talking about the definition and the fact that intentionality means you're doing something with a purpose. So I've talked about that, and I started out a little bit with talking about what intentionality does in your life. So I wanted to continue with that. Another thing that it does, besides the fact that it helps build your faith, intentionality also builds a confidence and a boldness sense about you never even knew you had, y'all. Since I've become intentional, I actually became intentional because God gave me the word intentionality probably in December. But I didn't become intentional about it, about my purpose and what God has shown me until probably the end of December, early January. And because me and God had that relationship, I was intentional about doing his purpose and what he had called me to do. Not what other people have called me to do, but what he had called me to do. So I became bold in saying no to things that I shouldn't be doing, that God told me to release, that God told me to let go of. And when I tell you, everybody's been walking around saying, Carrie, Carrie. They've been saying, you have this glow about you. And it's because it's the glory of God. Yes, I wear Fenty, and the Fenty is gorgeous, but, and it does give me a little bit of a glow, but at the end of the day, it is God that has given me that confidence, that boldness to walk into who I have been called to be. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to do this by myself. I don't want to do this without him. I want to do this with the intentionality that he has called me to, what he's called me to, who he's called me to. And that's, at the end of the day, having that relationship has given me that boldness, that sense of me. It took me to the age of 33 to realize it, but at the end of the day, I am excited, I'm ecstatic, and I feel blessed that God has given me the opportunity to do this, because 2019 could have been my last steps, could have been my last hurrah, but God was like, I got too much for you, boo-boo. Too much for you, boo-boo. So what I need for you to do is I need you to become purposeful and intentional about me. And then, like I said before, I was too intentional about the position he had me in, the last position he had me in. And I let it take over, and it became a distraction into what he had really called me to be. Now I'm in this place where I'm like, God, what do you need me to do next? Okay. Now I might be a little scared, I'm not gonna lie. I actually called a friend the other day and told them how scared I was about the next steps that God has for me. But I'm still gonna walk in them. The doubt, the fear, everything in between will try and come at you. But you have to be intentional about God and where he's taking you and your relationship with him. Because he'll continue to say, see that little thing right there? That's showing you that this is your next step. This is where I want you to be next. So you have to be intentional about that. And I'm hammering it in, y'all. I'm so hammering it in about being intentional about your relationship with God, because at the end of the day, God has our purpose. He has our plan for us. And the struggles will come because the enemy is here to kill, steal, and destroy. But guess what God has? He'll give you love, peace, joy, and a sound mind. So stay in his relationship with him, and things that were frustrating you will come and you'll become peaceful about them. You'll be like, that's okay, God's got me. God's got me at the end of the day. And you'll take bold steps that you never thought you could take, y'all. For real. And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And it's a funny thing about me, I didn't have a real bold relationship with God until, I would say, 2013 when I moved to Texas. And it was a very short but fast-paced relationship. When I moved, because I was building my relationship in 2007. 2007, I built my relationship with God, and I rededicated my life to him. But I was still a wild child. Let's be real. I was wild. I was crazy. It was like I'd go to church on Sunday, and to be real transparent, I was still hungover from the club the night before, to be real transparent. But it wasn't until 2013 where things started to fall apart, and I built that relationship. I built that relationship with God, and I just kept saying, God, I need you. I need you. He challenged me within probably about 2 months to step out on faith and move to Texas from Massachusetts. And I had 1 month to move, y'all. I lived there 26 years of my life. And he just said, move, go now. He was intentional about bringing me there. But I was intentional about his relationship. So if you don't know where to start with your intentionality, start with him. Start with him. Be intentional about waking up every day and talking to him. Talking to him throughout the day. I look like I'm crazy sometimes, y'all, because I talk to him throughout the day. And people are like, you okay over there? I'm not crazy. I'm just talking with God, and I'm having a relationship with him. And he will ask you to do things you've never knew you were going to be able to do. You never thought you were going to be able to do. And when I say God will elevate you so quickly, because he knows that he can trust you with the little that he has given you. Because once you trust you with the little, you have a whole lot that he's going to make happen. It's crazy how God works. I tell people that all the time. It is absolutely, positively crazy how he works. But you have to be intentional about him. And it doesn't mean just going to church on Sunday, y'all. It means opening your Bible. It means get a devotional. If you struggle with sitting through a big book of the Bible, I'll tell you right now, get a devotional. There are plenty of devotionals out there. Get one and start reading it every day. You'll build your relationship. You'll start learning scriptures. You'll start learning the word. You'll become stronger. And then next thing you know, you'll want to dive deeper and deeper and deeper into that relationship with him. And that intentionality will lead to your purpose. It'll lead to your faith. It'll lead to your confidence, to the boldness, to everything in between, y'all. I ain't playing with you. This year, 2020, I know it's so cliche. Everybody's saying 2020 vision. But God has given you a vision. He gave you a vision before you were in your mother's womb. He gave you a vision. He had a vision for you. So you just need to make it clear. Start with building the relationship with him. Build that relationship and watch God make it happen, y'all. Watch him make it happen in a place that you never thought that you would ever be, how you would ever be. Because at the end of the day, God's got you. And it's crazy, y'all. It's crazy what he can do after that. So I'm gonna play one more song, and then when we come back, we're gonna talk a little bit deeper into this and how to become intentional. I know I went off on a tangent about God and having that intentionality with God, and I threw me off my schedule, y'all. I'm not gonna lie, threw me off my schedule, but I let the Holy Spirit move through me when He needs to move through me, and obviously somebody needed to hear that. But if you don't get anything else from this, I want you to know, y'all, that God's got you. You just need to build that relationship. Be intentional about your relationship with God. Because at the end of the day, God has always been there for you. From day one. You might not have always been there for Him, but He's always been there for you. So build that relationship, and I promise you, you will walk boldly into who you're called to be. We'll be back. You're on Fishbowl Radio Network. That's FBRN.US, and you are tuned into Coffee Talk with Carrie. We are on Fishbowl Radio Network. That's FBRN.US, and I am your host, Carrie Harris, on Coffee Talk with Carrie. We have not had a show since November, and this is the first show and in 2020. I'm excited. I'm uber excited. Been messing up a few things over here, but it's totally okay, y'all. I'll get back into the swing of all of it. But I'm uber excited to be here, uber excited to be back and talking to my ladies, like for real. And y'all have shown up and showed out. I have lists on lists of people watching on my Facebook page. If you don't follow me on Facebook, follow me at Carrie A. Harris, and you can watch all of my Facebook Lives there. If you follow me on YouTube, you can look me up at Carrie Harris. I am also on Facebook and getting better at Twitter. I'm on Facebook, and my Facebook page is at city_girl_faith. And you can find me on Twitter at the same exact @handle, at city_girl_faith. I actually put my first Twitter post up in like over a year, probably about 2 weeks ago. So not 2 weeks ago, probably about a week ago. Let me be real. About a week ago. But they're connected too. I promise y'all I'll be better on there as well. But we are talking intentionality, the word that God gave me for 2020. And I hope God gave you a word in 2020. If not, feel free to use intentionality, because that is my purpose-filled word, and that's something He has given me. We have talked from the definition, we have talked the definition of it, to just digging deep into what intentionality does for your life. Went off on a bit of a tangent because the Holy Spirit moved, as usual, because that's what He does, because we are God-given women that have a purpose that is bigger than anything that we could ever imagine. And God wants to ensure that I'm instilling the right things in y'all that He has given me. So now we're going to move on to how to become intentional. I had to learn this myself, and I'm still working on it, y'all. I am not perfect at being intentional about anything whatsoever, but I'm glad to be back at trying to be intentional in the purpose that God has given me and the plan that He has given me. But number one that He has given that really helps me with being intentional is prayer. We talked a lot about this in the last hour because the Holy Spirit moved within me, but the power you have in prayer is crazy. God can give you visions. He can enlighten you. When we're intentional about prayer in relationship with Him, that's when He can elevate us to our purpose. I mean, He's been intentional about you from day one. From day one. So why can't we be intentional about Him? Seriously. Because the life that we live is not intended to be ours. He has an intent with us. He intended when Jesus died on the cross for us to be forgiven of our sins. So, His intention was for us to live a purpose-filled life. Can you give your life to Him with that intention as well? Think about it, truly. So that's number one on the list. If you need to become intentional, prayer, and He will show you. Pray, Lord, how do you want me to be intentional? How do you want me to be this way? What do you need me to be intentional about? When I first started this whole process of being truly intentional about things, I asked God, the first thing I asked him is, what do you need me to first be intentional about? And some of the things, they cut. They really cut. He's like, I need you to be intentional about your walk, about what I've called you to do. So that means you've got to make some sacrifices. And that's the second thing on the plate, y'all. We need to sacrifice. To be intentional, you have to sacrifice. Oh, it hurts to sacrifice. It always hurts to sacrifice. But it wouldn't be a sacrifice if it didn't hurt, or if it didn't feel uncomfortable, if it didn't feel good. And it's funny because, like, I'm learning to sacrifice a lot more than I did. I sacrifice hours. I sacrifice going out. I sacrifice so much because at the end of the day, I want to be intentional about what God has for me. So I have to sometimes sacrifice the things that I love, the people that I love, to get to where God has called me to be. When I moved to Texas, I had to sacrifice living 45 minutes away from my family. Now the closest family I have lives over 3 hours away. So you have to be intentional. Because God told me to move here. I was intentional. I sacrificed the things he needed me to sacrifice. This year he had me sacrifice some friendships. Because there are places that he needs me to go that those friendships can't necessarily go with. And that's okay. Doesn't mean that they're bad people. Doesn't mean that they're horrible people. But there's places and things that God needs you to go. And if you've got to sacrifice people, places, or things to get there, do it. Do it. Doesn't mean do it bitterly. Don't ever do it bitterly, because God would never do it bitterly. Do it with the intention of moving to your God-given purpose. People will say stuff. Things will happen. But at the end of the day, when you're intentionally sacrificing the things that you know you're not supposed to have in your life, you know you're not, or God is telling you to release. And it might be a tough release. It might be a job, y'all. It might be God telling you to release a habit that you have, or even thoughts. It's hard. It is your walk with God should not be easy. It should never be easy. And you should be intentional about praying, God, what do you need me to sacrifice? Because sometimes we don't know what to sacrifice. Sometimes we'll do the same thing over and over and over again, and we don't know why we're still in the same spot. There has been plenty of times that I have said to myself, why am I still in the same spot? God's like, because you didn't ask me what you needed me to do, what I needed you to do in your next process. And for me and my process, I had to sacrifice some people, places, and things. Yes, people, places, and things. That's a lot. And kind of a topic, but not really. But that's why people fast. It's a sacrifice. They fast from things. They fast from it. It's a sacrifice so they can get to the purpose that they're called to be, and they can hear God clearer. But God always calls us to have sacrifices in our lives. So next thing, you need to have a schedule. You need to schedule yourself out. Be intentional about your schedule. I had to become really, really intentional about my schedule, especially being a busy person. I'm extremely busy, if you know me. If you know me personally, I have a schedule where I start at 5 a.m. and sometimes don't finish till 10, 11 o'clock at night, like I did last night. But if not, I'm in bed by 8 p.m. Let me be real, y'all. But you have to set a schedule. You have to, and be intentional about it. This is what I do. I'll write a schedule out for the day, and then I'll say to myself, what will this accomplish? How will this bring me to where God needs me to be? Will this help with my purpose? You have to be intentional about every piece of that, even if it's just waking up and turning on the coffee pot. Because that's part of my routine, y'all. That's intentional, because I know I need caffeine. Shout out to Black and Bold, my favorite coffee brand ever. I'm intentional about waking up and turning on my coffee pot first, Because at the end of the day, that's what gets me going. If I don't have that caffeine, I'm not going to be able to get through the next part of my purpose, the next part of my plan, and where God has me next for the day. I am completely thrown off. It's turn on the coffee pot, open your Bible. That's what I got to do. Or watch a sermon. But I have to be intentional about those things to start my day. What are you intentional about to even start your day, y'all? I actually was in a Facebook group, that one of the Facebook groups I'm in for women. And there was a woman in there that was asking about how do you get up and keep a routine with God. And I said, sometimes you have to sacrifice and you have to get up earlier. It's like, I get up at 5 a.m. so I have the time to do it. And she goes, I don't do that. And she's like, that sounds crazy. I will never be able to do that. It's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice to be intentional of where God wants you to be and how he wants you to be and where he wants you to be. You have to be intentional about that schedule. If you need to go to bed really early so you get up early enough to do it, do it. You have to. And I know because I am a single woman, it is a little easier for me, but even for my married women out there, my women that are in relationships, you can build out a schedule. Find out what's important to you. You and God have that conversation. What is the most important thing that you need from me, God? And at the end of the day, God will show you. He'll show you, and then you'll build out that schedule with him, because you cannot build out that schedule without him. Let me be real. You cannot build out your daily schedule without God in it. You can't. He holds the key to our lives. So if you're not intentional about telling God, hey God, what do you need for my schedule? And write it down. Make room for him. And that leads to my next one. Make room for God. Make room for him to move. Yes, make a schedule. Trust me, this is my type A personality, y'all. Because Carrie has a really type A personality. When it comes to my personality, I want to control everything. I want to control absolutely everything. So for a time, I did not write down schedules because it would stress me out when they didn't go the way I needed them to go. But then I realized, specifically this year, that I was leaving God out. I wasn't leaving room for him, because sometimes we'll write stuff on our schedule, and guess what? It'll be completely different than what God has. He's like, oh yeah, I'm going to turn you over here. And sometimes the reason why he did that is to get you out of trouble from something else. Like, for instance, have you ever been in traffic and it's like backed up and you're mad because you're going to be late for work, or you're going to be late for something else, or an event or something like that. But you get all the way up there and it's an accident. Do y'all realize that you probably could have been in that accident? God was actually saving you from that accident. He's intentional about things. So make room for God, because he sees what we don't see. Everything we don't see, he already sees. So when the enemy has a little bit of creeper up in there, guess what? God's already seen it. He's already seen it, and he's going to be like, oh yeah, I'm hiding you over here so you don't have to deal with this trouble. So you have to understand that, and you have to make sure that you leave that room for him, because when you leave room for God to move, guess what? That's when the power becomes so relevant. That's when breakthroughs start happening. Generational curses start being broken. Everything in between goes away, y'all. Like, for real, make room for God. Because that's something I did not do for the longest time. I didn't make room for God. And it caused my stress. It caused my anxiety. It caused depression. Everything in between. Because I was working so hard at something that God didn't have intended for me in the first place. So we have to make room and make sure that our type A personalities, if you're a type A like me, that our type A personalities don't get in the way of what God is trying to do in your life. Because at the end of the day, God runs it. Not us, but God. So we have to routinely build those relationships and make room for him when it comes to that. So let's recap a little bit of what I just said, because I know that was a lot to take in. So to become intentional about your life purpose, to become intentional about what God has for you, there are 3 things that I talked about today. One of them is prayer. Another one is sacrifice. And the third one is making room for God to move. So let go. Let go and let God move the way he needs you to. Let him move the way he wants to move. Because at the end of the day, God's got it. He's got it. We just have to be intentional about sacrifice, prayer, building a schedule. We need to, long story short, be intentional about him. And I don't know why I keep feeling this in my spirit, but we need to continuously keep him at the forefront. Because keeping him at the forefront will keep us in line with being intentional about things, even encounters with people that we may not have necessarily known. It will help us be intentional about the places we go. Are there certain habits in your life that you cannot do, that God is trying to get rid of? But you can't, for instance, let me be real. Let me be another real, because I'm very real about my life, y'all. For me, I like when I go out to party. I like to party hard. I do. It's what I do. And I know for me, I cannot go to certain places anymore because my life is not God didn't intend for me to party so hard that I can't get up the next day. So it's not okay for me to do that. I know you have to know your cues. You have to know what's going to trigger that habit, what's going to trigger the bad things in your life, what's going to trigger things that aren't going to work in your life. You have to understand that, and you have to let God move the way he needs to move. So be intentional about the places you go. Be intentional. Because at the end of the day, God is working. He's working for your good. So when you keep getting that little inkling where you're like, man, it's God telling you, hey, this is what I need you to do, and I need you to do it now. So stop playing and focus, because he'll take the grace off of you. He'll take the grace off of you so you feel it. And when you feel it, it does not feel pretty, and it hurts, and it can technically make you go into a downward spiral. So you don't want to go in a downward spiral for God to make you get to where he needs you to be. Just be intentional. You have the strength. You have the courage to do it. Just make sure that you truly, truly want to do it. If you are serious about your walk with God and your purpose, your life purpose, because I'm very serious, y'all. I'm 33 years old, and I'm not exactly where I want to be. I want to be in a whole nother place this time, 2021. Then you have to be intentional about these things. You have to let God do what he needs to do. So, we're going to continue this conversation. On Fishbowl Radio Network, that's fbrn.us, and I am your host, Carrie Harris. And we have been talking intentionality. It's not easy to be intentional. It isn't. In a world where they want to tell us who to be and how to be it, it's not easy to be in a place where you're intentional on what God has for you. It's not easy at all. But that's when we build our confidence in him. Too often, we build our confidence in people, places, and things, jobs, careers, family. But people are human. Jobs, especially in this economy, they fall apart. But if we stay dependent on him, on God, y'all, I'll tell you right now, staying intentional about him and where he wants you to be, is going to bring you and elevate you to a place that's unlike any other. I talk a lot about aligning your mind, your body, and your spirit. Yes, all three of those need to be aligned, ladies, but they all have to be aligned with God, because nothing in your relationship down here, even with yourself, will align unless you have a great one with God. Think about it. When I chose to live a healthier lifestyle, mentally, physically, and emotionally, I gave it to God. I did. I gave it to God. I said, God, I can't do this. You see what happens when I try to control it, when I try to do this, when I try to make things happen. I try to take my own life. Let's be real. That's what happened. But when I give it to him, he tells me, he walks my steps. He tells me which way to go, how to go next. And the way it's been happening is truly, truly phenomenal, because I was in a space where it was scary, where it was hard, where I wanted to give up. But God, y'all, but God. So I want to ask you, what are you placing in your life? What are you placing in your life over God? Because at the end of the day, being intentional about him is going to get you to where you need to be. Be intentional. Be intentional about your walk with him. Seriously. And I'm telling you, if you listen to any celebrity or anybody that you look up to, I guarantee they're telling you that they put their source of strength, because it's not easy to walk on this path, this different path. Because anybody that's listening to my radio show, I know God has a path for you that's unlike any other. Unlike any other, because he's caused unique things in my life that I can't even fathom. Seriously. So if you're listening to my radio show, I know God has something in you that he's trying to pull out, and he's trying to move that's completely different. It's going to change the trajectory of your family. It's going to change the trajectory of the people around you. And people are going to start looking at you strange from the beginning when you start purposely walking in the way he's called you to do it. They're going to look at you crazy. They are going to look at you crazy. I got so many people looking at me crazy, and it's totally okay. Because at the end of the day, I know what God has placed inside me, and listening to him and taking that path that's not the straight path that everybody wants to take, guess what? It's going to lead to where he needs me to be. So take that path. Listen to him, because he's going to show you. He's going to give you all the signs. This is the next step. And if you don't take those steps, I'll tell y'all right now, because I'm doing it right now. You're going to go in a circle. Circle, circle, circle. Circle, circle, circle. It's like that Luther Vandross song, got me going in circles. Yeah, I just sang, y'all. But it's like that Luther Vandross song. You're going to continuously go through this cycle until you pass that test. So be intentional, because he's going to tell you, this is what I need you to do. Be intentional about what he's telling you to do, not what the world's telling you to do, because at the end of the day, the world's eventually going to perish. Science says it. If you don't believe in God, science says it. Let's be real. God has said it in his word. So you have to be intentional about your next steps, where you're going, how you're doing it. Set a plan with God. And if God changes it, don't get mad at him. Don't get mad at him. Because I've been mad at God. I've been bitter at God. And it's not easy. It's not fun. That's the enemy talking to you, saying, oh, God ain't doing nothing. God ain't doing this. God ain't doing that. If you are a Bible reader, if you read Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was in there fasting, which was part of his purpose. God intended for him to do that. His Father, our Father. And guess what happened? The enemy came in whispering, saying this, 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 and this. But he stood firm, like I said earlier in the show. The confidence that God wants you to have will be built when you're intentional in him. So continue to build that confidence, that bold sense of you, because that bold sense of you is something else, y'all. It is. It's something that people don't even realize that that will happen when you truly walk in the path he has called you to have. Because it doesn't look like everybody else's. My path sure doesn't look like everybody else's. And to be transparent, some days I wish it did. Some days I do. But 99.9% of the days I don't, because I know what's tied to it, who's tied to it, and how it's supposed to help me through my purpose. There are strands of places I have gone and people are like, why are you going that direction? Don't you want to do this in your life? But God needs me to learn something along this path, this temporary path right here, because this is going to help me later in my future. So you have to be intentional about listening and building that relationship with him, because he will give you those steps. And if he's quiet, because sometimes God will be quiet. God's always talking, but he'll be quiet about certain things. That I do know. If he's quiet, keep the faith. Keep the faith. Hold on to him. Stay in relationship with him. Because he wants to test you. Sometimes we get through tests. We got to be tested sometimes. Make sure we pass these tests. Allow yourself to pass these tests. And the only way you can allow yourself to pass these tests is if you actually decide to walk with him. Y'all, I had so many different notes too on this, and God just was like, I need you to just listen to me and release this. So this is for somebody. I don't know who it's for, but please take this and please implement it in your life. Intentionality. He gave me that word. That was my 2020 word. So I've been trying to be intentional about all things that God has for me, which means I had to sacrifice. I had to let go and let God. Like, seriously, y'all. It's hard. It's really hard. And some days I go home and I cry. I still remember one day I came back from one of my cycling classes and I sat there. I didn't even sit there. I got in the door and I fell to my knees crying, because it's not easy. At 6 o'clock in the morning, because my class is at 5:30. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. And I broke down crying, y'all. Broke down. And the only reason why I broke down was because I knew the difficulty. It wasn't just the cycling class. It was everything else that he was asking me to sacrifice, that he was asking me to walk in, the things he was telling me to do. It's not easy. But you know what? I wouldn't change it for the world, because he's always got his hand on you. Always. He's always going to hold on, and he's always going to say, just keep going, my child. I've got you. I'm holding you. It's okay to cry. It's okay to break down, but it's not okay to give up. It's not. Be intentional about walking God's path for you, his purpose for you, because in 2020, he's not playing games. I'm watching him. I am truly, truly watching him elevate the people that have been faithful to him. I'm watching him. I'm sitting in it right now, y'all. The owner of Fishbowl Radio Network has been faithful to God. And now she has a building that is amazing. That's God's work. That's the type of things God does. Stay in relationship with him. Because I'll tell you, you're one struggle away from your purpose. One struggle. Get through that struggle. At the end of the day, God's got you. You have to pass the test, y'all. Have to. I know I sound mad. I'm not mad. I just want you to get it. Because it's not easy. It's never been easy. And it never will be easy. People think Oprah had it easy. Oprah did not have it easy to get. Listen to her story. She definitely didn't have it easy. Kobe Bryant didn't have it easy. All of these people that lived these purpose-filled lives did not have it easy. That's why they're writing these books, to tell you it wasn't an easy path for me. It wasn't. It's never an easy path. And God does that intentionally, because you know why? Your purpose is tied to someone else's destiny. And I put that in the forefront of my face every single day. I can't give up because there's somebody else that might try to take their life. There is somebody else that needs to hear the word of God, that needs to know that struggle that they went through, that difficulty they went through, I've gone through it and I bypassed it. It can be possible. And that's the same thing for you. God has the same intention for you, y'all. Like for real. The exact same intention. So you have to be faithful in it. You have to be able to understand that it's not a perfect path. It's not. And you're not going to be perfect at it. Don't beat yourself up either, y'all. I used to beat myself up a lot when I first was in relationship with God. I started to beat myself up because I wasn't quite where I needed to be, where I thought I needed to be. But God had a whole nother intention. He's a forgiving Father. He's a Father that understands. We are given the gift of grace through his Son, Jesus Christ. So you have to understand that it's not going to be perfect. And when you mess up, just ask God for forgiveness and then forgive yourself. We forget to forgive ourselves, y'all. We do. We always forget to forgive ourselves. And when we forget to forgive ourselves, guess what? We hold it as baggage. We don't want to be that bag lady. We don't want to be that woman with baggage, because I'll tell you, you can always tell a woman that has baggage on them. And if you're single, you can always tell when, like, a man can always tell when a woman's got baggage. Let me be real. They can tell from a mile away. It's not just written on you inside, it's written on you outside. The way you carry yourself, the way you hold yourself. God is intended for us to hold ourselves with our head up high and our chest out and proud of who we are. We are powerful. You are powerful. Women, we are all over, written in the Bible, how powerful we are. When you have the right intentions with God, that power is so mighty, so powerful. It's crazy. Look at Deborah. Look at Esther. Look at Ruth. Look at the powerful women. There's so many other women in there, y'all. So many other women in there, y'all. But look at them. We are powerful. We have been built to be powerful, strong, beautiful women. We are all beautiful, every way, shape, and form. But you have to be intentional about listening to God as opposed to listening to the world, because listening to God will show you who you are. Listening to the world will show you who they want you to be. Let me say that again. Building a relationship with God will show you who you truly are. But building that relationship with the world will show you who the world wants you to be. You don't want to be who the world wants you to be. Because the world is going to tell you to look like this, to do that, to get this to you. God has made you uniquely made for such a time as this to walk into where you need to be. So continue to do it. Continue to elevate. Continue to motivate yourself. Motivate yourself through God. We're in a world where likes are where everybody wants to be motivated. Where likes and statuses and all that stuff is where everybody needs to be motivated. Oh no, boo-boo. Because guess what? Instagram's eventually going to fade. Take it from somebody that works in digital marketing, social media. It's eventually going to fade. Facebook's eventually going to fade. All of these social media channels are just going to fade. But you know what's eternal? God's love for you. God's purpose for you, his plan for you. Don't wait till you're 50-something years old to do it. You could be. If you are, it's not too late. But if you are in your 18 to 20/30, like I am, 33, age, don't wait. Do it now. What are you waiting for? I talk to people all the time. And they're like, well, I'm just waiting for this. I'm just waiting for that. No, that word wait is not in my vocabulary. It has never been in my vocabulary. I don't wait. I am very impatient. I wait on God, but I don't wait. I don't. He's still working on me on some waiting stuff, God, y'all. But I don't wait. God tells me to do something. I'm like, I'm not going to say, I'm going to wait till you do this, God. No. I'll do it. What do you need me to do so I can do this, God? How do you need me to do this? Okay, I got you, God. I'm there. In there like swimwear. That's how you do it. That's what faith is. You don't see how you're going to get there, but you're like, okay, God, I'll do it. Just do it. I wrote something on my Instagram the other day that was crazy, and I couldn't even fathom it, really. But me and God were sitting there. This was a little after Kobe Bryant passed away, and I was in a shell shock like most people. But it hit me really, really hard, and me and God were having this conversation about how this man had a full life purpose, and he passed away so early. And it was hard on me. And I thought to myself, like, God, this man was 41 and passed away. I'm 33, and I'm not where I'm supposed to be yet. He literally said to me, what would happen if you completely threw yourself into your purpose? At 18, Kobe Bryant threw himself completely at his purpose, y'all. Completely. And that's where I'm at. I'm completely throwing myself into my purpose. Are you going to completely throw yourself into your purpose? Because completely throwing yourself into your purpose will bring you to where God has called you to be. That's faith. Kobe had faith. Oprah had faith. Every celebrity you could think about that has sacrificed like that had faith. They're not looking at what's next to them, this, that, and there. Steve Harvey, if you know his story, that man was sleeping in cars. But he knew his purpose and his plan, and he stayed faithful to God. Same with, oh goodness, I forgot his name. But we won't even say his name then, because I totally forgot it. Sorry, y'all. But yeah, there's been so many people out there that have done that. So what are you doing? Are you sacrificing? Are you willing to throw yourself out there? Or are you focusing too much on your retirement and your 401k? Not that it's a bad thing to have it. If you want to be the CEO of the company you work for, absolutely, that's great. Or you see yourself here, there, or whatnot, that's great. But for me, that's not where I'm called to be. But are you if that's where you're called to be, are you putting yourself completely out there? Because not everybody puts themselves completely out there. Think about that. Are you throwing yourself completely at the career that you wanted? Or the destiny that God has for you that you know you're supposed to be at? If you're at a company that you know you're supposed to be at, are you throwing yourself completely there? Or are you throwing yourself there from 9 to 5? Sacrifices need to happen. Faith in God needs to happen. You need to allow it to happen. Okay, my rant's over, y'all, for now. Let's play a little bit more. Coffee Talk with Carrie. That is fbrn.us. And I just want to thank y'all. Thank y'all for truly coming back and listening in. I had so many people sending me messages. When is Coffee Talk with Carrie coming back? Blah, 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 blah. Y'all have been patient. Y'all have been awesome. Y'all have been truly, truly the reason why. You're my reason why I did this, why I continue to do this. Because, I'm not going to lie, I thought that God was giving me a sign that it was time for me to stop. And he was like, nope, see? These people need you. These people need you. So I'm so glad to be back, and I'm so glad that y'all are still here, for real. Y'all make the reason why purposeful. So I love y'all. I'm thankful for y'all. If you're new to Coffee Talk with Carrie, please follow me on all social media platforms. On Facebook, it's Carrie A. Harris. On Instagram, where I'm usually at 99.9% of the time, if you really want to know my life, it's at city_girl_faith. Y'all, I'm getting better at Twitter. I promise y'all I'm getting better at Twitter. And My at handle for Twitter is at city_girl_faith. And then you can also follow me on YouTube as well. I have some motivational videos on there as well. And I have a few surprises coming up this year that I will be announcing probably in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned. I'm so excited to have y'all. I can't wait to see y'all next week. Love you. Muchos. Muchos, muchos. And I will see you soon. You are tuned into Fishbowl Radio Network.